What's up, guys? It's the Essential John L. Crossfire.
And I am Nova Lee.
And you guys are tuned into Caught
in Conversation.
Shaka laka laka. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 153 of Caught in Conversation. As always, I am your host, the Essential John L. Crossfire.
And I am Nova Lee.
And I've already fucked it up, but that's okay. This is all one take. Usually I say the number of the episode and then the name of the episode. The name of the episode is Use Sandpaper instead. And we're featuring the one and only Frank Liu-Fu from Beauty the Geek. You may know him from the Cronulla Sharks. He is Dr. Frank. But yeah, today, talking to him about all things, about his love of WWE and then just footy and just talking about his time on Beauty and the Geek, and shares a really cool story actually about his first meeting, kinda, sorta, but not really, with the eventual winner of the season he was on, with Lockie. So that's really cool. Obviously, listen to the conversation and find out so I don't spoil it. But Nova Lee, would you like to do the song and match of the week real quick?
Sure thing.
And then we'll transition into this conversation with Frank, because we have a habit of ranting in these intros and stuff. And
yeah, we're trying to
I want to get into this conversation because it was a very fun conversation.
Alrighty. So your song of the week for episode 153 is The Time Is Now by John Cena, featuring That Trademark. And
The Trademark. John Cena's cousin.
Sorry.
John Cena's cousin.
Trademark. And your match of the week was Johnny Gargano versus Andrade at NXT TakeOver Philadelphia 2018. I got excited because it's still Philadelphia.
How about the timing of this, though? Like, full disclosure, we've just done one full episode and intros and outros to two other episodes on the same day as we record this. As we record the intro and outro to this episode specifically, we had this conversation about a week and a half ago, roughly, with Frank, maybe close to 2 weeks.
Yes.
But as we do this intro, it's Super Bowl day. Who just won the Super Bowl?
Day, the Philadelphia Eagles' birthday!
Now, obviously, as a Rams fan, that stings because the Eagles were the ones that kicked us out, but I did wear an Eagle shirt for you. There's footage, or I should say photographic proof on Nova's Instagram. There's also
receipts,
there's also video footage on the watch-along versions for those that have the $15 subscription to our Patreon to get the video watch-alongs. Cheap plug. You'll see me when we do the 1995 Retro Rumble-along for the 30 years of the Rumble, and also 30 years of Nova Lee this past weekend.
Woo!
You'll see me wearing a Philadelphia Eagles shirt. Please don't hold it against me. But no, the very fun conversation with Frank. Really enjoyed it. But yeah, basically the reason this was picked was Frank on Beauty and the Geek had a John Cena shirt pretty much in every segment. Like, there was a few ones where he was wearing a Hurt Business shirt and other things, but Frank has, he basically said he has a John Cena shirt almost for every day of the week, which is pretty cool, which is pretty enjoyable. But also, spoiler alert, towards the end of this conversation, it was recorded just before the Rumble, and that was actually Frank's prediction for the Rumble was John Cena. But yeah, and then the match, Nova, Frank was there live in person for this match.
Yeah, that was... I wish I could have been live for that match. That's amazing. It was a pretty good match.
And I think we did touch on it when he brought it up, that was the weekend that I saw Nova Lee across the road at my friend's house for the first time. So, and again, listen to Frank's story on meeting Lockie and stuff, and then we touch on it a couple of times because we come back to it as we do with the ADHD, but towards the end of the conversation we actually kind of told that story, and yeah, it was a fun time. But I really enjoyed this conversation with Frank. Nova Lee, I haven't really prepared any notes for you just because, well, he's Dr. Frank and you may know him from Beauty and the Geek, you may know him from whatever, so I'm just going to let you press the sound button, get people hyped, get warmed up, and then let you do your best introduction here for Dr. Frank.
Alrighty. Ladies and gentlemen, the Doctor is in from Sydney, Australia. You may also know him from Beauty and the Geek, Frank Liu-Fu, aka Dr. Frank.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are here with Dr. Frank. You may know him from the Cronulla Sharks, you may know him from Beauty and the Geek Australia. You may know him from somewhere else. I don't know. It's a big, bad world out there. But how are you doing tonight, Frank?
Yeah, very good, mate. Thanks for having me.
No, I'm glad to have you. As I just said to you off air, like I've been following you for a little bit, thanks to Beauty and the Geek Australia, which I'm sure Nova will get into very soon in this conversation. But we have most of the time on this podcast, Frank, we have Australian professional wrestlers on this show, are the main group of people we have. So we have 5 core questions that we tailor to them. So I've taken those 5 and I've tweaked them a little bit for you, and then we've sprinkled the few little bits and bobs in between. But we always ask the same question for guests when it's their first appearance on the show. It's a nice little icebreaker. Some say it's a generic question, but I say it's an important question. And that question for you, Frank, is what was your earliest wrestling memory?
I have to try to think. Was it Channel 9 or was it Channel 1? It was, so I'm talking sort of 2008/9 here. And I can't quite remember which one I actually ended up watching first. I'm pretty sure it would have been Channel 9 back in the day. They had, they were showing episodes of SmackDown late at night, of course, because prime time was reserved for something else. But I had to say probably that was the again, completely by, accident, just, we shouldn't say accident, but, unintentionally stumbling across, an episode of SmackDown that was being shown on Channel 9, and, that was it.
Hell yeah. Who was the biggest person that stuck out to you when you first were flicking through the channels?
Oh, Big, quite literally, Big Show. I remember, he happened to be on the first episode of SmackDown I watched. I'm pretty sure it was a 6-man tag of some sort. I didn't realize that. I had zero idea of what, wrestling and sports entertainment was all about, back then. So it just all became a vibe. Had no idea what the rules were, but it seemed like they were somehow fighting and somehow one team was going to win.
I love that because, the wrestling's always been about those larger-than-life characters. What better larger-than-life character than the legitimate 7'2", whatever. I think he's like 7'3" with his boots on or something like that.
Yeah, it was about 500 pounds back then, I think.
Yeah, wow. So that would have been that awkward transition period between when it was on Channel 9 and the 1HD, which was the sports channel we used to have on free to air. I missed that channel. That would have been, I think it would have been Afterburn, I think what the show was called, but they only showed highlights from SmackDown.
Yeah, I can't even remember the name. It wasn't the full episode. It was, like a 40-minute episode or something where they would have just showed the highlights. But that was me, and when the affiliation was wrestling started, I have to say it wasn't like any media. Oh, bang! I'm just going to watch this religiously. It took a while, but after watching it here and there, I go, actually this is really cool.
Now, I'm assuming, obviously, and again, we'll get into it, but your attire on Beauty and the Geek, you were wearing a Her Business shirt at some point, but majority of the shirts you were wearing were John Cena merchandise, so I'm assuming over the time you became a big John Cena fan. But you and I don't think you're even aware of this, but you and I have actually talked previously. It was when you were doing, I don't know if it was an NGL thing or just a question thing, but it was something on Instagram where you were answering questions one night, and I was on my break at work at the time, and you were talking about matches and stuff. And one of the matches, I can't remember what the exact question was, but I think it was just a generic of what's your favourite match, which we will still get into, but you threw out the Joe versus AJ versus Daniels triple threat from TNA in that questionnaire. And when we were setting this up, you were talking about saying that you don't follow that much local stuff at the moment. It's mainly just WWE. But at what point did you discover that wrestling in general outside of WWE did exist?
Well, see, going back in time again, I was growing up. We didn't have pay TV, so watching was whatever was on free to air. That's what I watched, and then mostly sport content. So that's how I came across WWE initially, and then when Channel 1 came along, they showed TNA. So actually, I probably ended up watching TNA more than WWE for probably the first sort of 12 to 18 months thereabouts, and it was the day where Joe, Daniels, AJ, they were all peak TNA times. So I guess in a way I kind of discovered TNA as sort of the promotion that I knew the most about. And then I got into WWE a bit more frequently. Again, that was because I'm pretty sure this was Channel 1, again, decided to show WWE instead of TNA. And then, so to answer your question, so after that, I guess if we take that point as when my affiliation with WWE really grew, so after that, when did I know wrestling outside of WWE? Yeah, probably I have to say like 2012, probably, as it was. After I started university, I became, more, I wouldn't say experimental, but so I was just looking for information out there about wrestling on the internet when I realised, promotions like Ring of Honor and New Japan. So, yeah, probably around about that time where I never fully got into those promotions much other than watching a little bit of highlights here and there. But, yeah, that would have been the time where I sort of ventured outside of WWE.
Hell yeah. That's funny because 2012, 2013 was around the first time that I first discovered Ring of Honor myself, because I just finished high school and all my buddies, they'd been friends for years and apparently they'd just been holding out on me or something, because up until that point I was the same, WWE and TNA, and then all of a sudden it was same thing, Ring of Honor, New Japan, and then all these independent companies in the US. And even now I've been, I say with quotation marks on an audio podcast, I've been in the business for 8 years now of Australian professional wrestling, and I'm still learning so much about the history of Australian professional wrestling. It's a lot harder to find than the history of the US. But have you ever attended an indie show here in Australia at all?
Short answer, no.
Okay.
Well, I'll take the short answer as a paying customer, no.
Okay.
Slightly long answer. I know PWA did perform at one of the Newtown Jets games a couple of years ago as part of the Beer Footy Food Festival. So and I was working as as a doctor for the football game. So unofficially, yes, but as a paying customer, no.
But fair enough. That would have been the beer and footy festival, was it? I think.
Yeah, Beer Footy Food Festival. Yeah, they run that at Henson Park. It's been very successful. Year after year.
I saw on social media, actually, I'm not sure which year it was, but the Newtown Jets mascot actually entered the Battle Royal one year there. Come off the top rope.
That was last year, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, 24. Unfortunately, last year. I was there too, but unfortunately that was when the wrestling I was on, I hear was I'd just say there was a lot of medical things I had to attend to inside the chair, so unfortunately I didn't actually get to watch much of it. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that was when Jetman got in the ring. As I found out afterwards.
That went viral amongst the Australian wrestling community. That did.
Well, the funny thing is, Jetman again. I don't know if he took his helmet off. He's not a young fella anymore. Let's put it that way.
So you think someone else may have been inside that suit potentially?
Oh no, I'm pretty sure it's that. I'm pretty sure it's him. I don't think it'd be anyone else. But yeah, no, it's just like for a bloke that's not a spring chicken anymore. No, he has some moves.
Fair enough. Have you ever attended one of the live WWE shows when they've come over here?
Yes, a few times. Like last year when they did the show at Perth, Elimination Chamber, that was really good. Yeah, that's probably the. I don't know. I take that back. I was going to say it was the largest show, but then I remember 2018 when they came to Melbourne for Super Showdown. So they'd probably be the two biggest shows I attended in Australia. And then a couple of sort of house shows when they would come to Sydney here and there. But yeah, so that I was very nice to sort of see these guys that you'd be watching on TV live.
It's kind of crazy to think when I think about it, depending on years and stuff, I may have actually been in attendance at the same house shows that Frank was at.
I'm sure we would have been in the same building. Yeah, absolutely.
I think it was 2016 they did John Cena versus AJ Styles, which was freaking awesome. And then Chris Jericho was doing a run of house shows where, a lot of house shows, WWE, they'll do basically the same match from town to town as they do. Mm-hmm. As social media has evolved, they've had to stray away from that, unfortunately, and they've had to change it up. But at that point, they had like the formula, but Chris Jericho was doing a special thing where every night he did something different. So it was a tag match one show, just a promo segment one show. We actually got Chris Jericho versus Finn Balor for the first time in Sydney in 2016, I think it was, and that was amazing. That was.
I could only imagine. Now, unfortunately, I didn't attend that year, but I could only imagine those two tearing the house down. Oh.
I made a kid in front of me cry, unfortunately, because I'm a big John Cena fan. I really am. Throughout all the trials and tribulations, when everyone turned on him, I was still a John Cena fan. But I'm a bigger AJ Styles fan than I am a John Cena fan. So when it was the "Let's Go Cena, Cena sucks" chants, I was chanting "Cena sucks," and this little young man in front of me was very upset that I was booing John Cena, and he had literal tears in his eyes. So I actually pulled his dad aside later after the show and was like, "Look, mate," and I was like, "Look, mate, I hope I didn't upset you, young fella, da 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 da." And he's like, "Nah, he just gets too far into it." And then I was actually talking to him, and he's like, "Do you actually hate John Cena?" And I'm like, "No, I actually love John Cena, but I like AJ more." And then he kind of looked at me and he's like, "That's okay. We all have our favourites." And I was like, "Okay." Just had to make sure I didn't have any heat with this random child because I felt so bad that he was crying.
Oh no, you wouldn't want to give us PTSD at that age.
I felt so bad. I had to pull him his dad aside after the show and was just like, "Hey man, like, you okay, buddy?" Like, but no, his dad was like, he takes it very seriously, and I'm like, he reminds me of me at that age. I gotta make sure he's all right.
How old do you reckon the kid was?
It probably would have been like maybe 7 or 8. Like, so he was kind of like at that in-between stage.
A real young
just
fella.
Like, yeah.
I mean, they probably go through that age where that they literally think that these guys are like, gods. And it's like, and here he is, someone like, dissing, the god of his universe, just about to have his literal world collapse on him.
Would you like to ask your first question, Nova?
Yeah, so I just want to say hello first of all, because I haven't got a word in yet. So I'm Nova, I'm the co-host. So my first question for you, Frank, just changing things up a little bit. We're pretty ADHD, both me and John, so things will move around a little bit. So as people are aware, you're a doctor. So for those that may not know, could you give us a brief summary of what kind of doctor you are and how long you've been doing it for?
Yeah, so I actually, come next week, it'll be starting my 7th year as a doctor. So I graduated in 2018, University of Sydney. And currently I work in geriatrics and rehabilitation as my day job, and I also do I like to call it my side hustle, but I do for the last 5 years now as a sports doctor with the Cronulla Sharks. I'm mainly covering their junior grades, make sure that their kids are well looked after on the weekends when they play, and that's pretty much it.
That's pretty cool. So my next question for you is, what was the deciding factor that got you into the medical field, and was there anything in particular that gave you a passion for medicine?
Well, the short answer is, growing up in China, I grew up in China until I was 9 years old. And that's like your childhood memories do sort of shape who you are, and I think that's very much true in the sense that getting sick as a kid and getting treated by doctors, and you don't remember too much about the exact details, but you just knew that these are people that made a difference in your life and got you better. As kids, unfortunately, they do catch colds and flus more often than you'd like, and that was essentially, and it wasn't one particular moment. It was just more the accumulation of experiences. Once every few months or so, especially during flu season. Being treated by doctors that sort of made me shape me to go, what, these people do an amazing job. And even at the age of like 7, 8, didn't really understand what that was all about, but it kind of just stuck in my head that will be a very worthwhile career to go into.
That's really cool.
I'm glad to hear that it's like, and it's not for selfish reasons or anything. Like, it genuinely, like, from such a young age. That's really cool.
Yeah.
No, thanks, mate. Again, it's something we just speak amongst our colleagues quite a lot. Which is like the old school philosophy of, oh, you're a doctor, you must be loaded. Is actually it's long out the window. You know, it's like, you know, if you want to make money, being a doctor is the wrong profession. But you have to be surprised how much doctors actually get paid. It's, they say there are a lot of professions that probably earn a lot more.
Yeah, no, definitely for sure. And as you say, like, there is a lot of new age doctors, and we're lucky to know a handful of new age doctors who, some of them are a little bit well off, but that's because you see the amount of work that they constantly
my old
doing.
Doctor, he was loaded, but it's because he did forensics. He dived into all these different things. He did like drug and alcohol. He did your basic GP. He went into all these different fields, and he burned himself out because he was doing so much. I'm like, dude.
Oh, absolutely. And anyway, people have quite literally written entire books on this. But I guess it's something to do with the healthcare system and the work culture amongst healthcare professionals. Unfortunately, burnout probably is more common than we like to admit. Certain specialties probably face it a little bit more than others. It is really that. It is really about that. Work-life balance. As much as we try to get it right, we don't always get it right.
Yeah, well, and but obviously, different types of doctors here as well. But both Nova and I, for our listeners regularly of the pod, Frank, we have our own. We won't go into like the details, but we have our own health issues that have been affecting us for a handful of years. And we're constantly, both on this podcast and on our vlogs on YouTube, just completely putting over the healthcare system, especially in New South Wales, obviously, because that's where we're based, but just Australia in general, like the healthcare that, we receive compared to some other countries, we, forever grateful for it, and cannot put over the New South Wales health professionals or Australian health professionals in general. So we personally just want to say thank you for what you do and everyone else out there as well.
Oh, thanks, mate. I was going to say, we're just doing our job. So, like the other night, I was, seeing someone at 1 a.m. on a home visit, and they stayed up for me, but they're like, what are you going to do after this? I said, I've got two more jobs to go. And then, but yeah, I guess, we don't do it just for, just to, like I said, we don't do it just for the cash. It's, you got to really want to do it, because I feel like if you don't like what you do, you're really going to struggle.
Absolutely.
So my next question for you, it's again switching gears. So many people may know you from the 2021 season of Beauty the Geek Australia. Of course, that's how we first saw you as well. As I mentioned, as John mentioned to you off air, I should say, the other day we actually rewatched a few episodes in preparation for this episode. I know with reality... So I know with reality TV, there may be things that you can't get into specifics about due to the contracts and whatnot. But what is the application process like? If you can divulge into that or not?
Yeah. Again, it's I don't know if anyone from Channel 9 or production are going to be listening to this anyway. But
probably not.
Yeah. I mean, even if they do, I'm pretty sure there's really not a lot of secrets here that they wouldn't want known publicly available. But yeah, the short answer is, like most TV shows, I guess I was one of the conventional way of getting casted, where I saw an ad. Obviously, I've been a big fan of the show since I was a little kid, so I just jumped up and down. I said, okay, let's do it. So you go to the website and fill out a whole bunch of application questions, and if you're lucky, they'll give you a call to say let's arrange a time for a Skype interview. So that was kind of you say that's So stage 1 was your application. Stage 2 was your Skype interview, and if you did well enough in that, then they invite you for an in-person interview. At the time, and I'm sure now, now this is in 2025 compared to 2020, where it was peak COVID season. The number of face-to-face interviews are probably going to go up compared to what we had back then. So, but the face-to-face interview with panel, and then it's pretty much just a weight game. If they like you, if they could see you being a good utility, hopefully they're going to find a role for you, and you get chosen. That's pretty much that in a nutshell. So probably about 4 main steps.
So that's the very similar process, actually. We had Freya Fury on here recently, who was on The Voice.
Oh, yeah.
And she said the same. Like, it's a lot more... she said it's a lot more complicated than people realise, but it's also simultaneously a lot more simple than people realise in terms of...
Oh, yeah. It's like applying for a job, It's like, I'm not sure there's, you hear stories about, if you're applying for a job at Google, the interviews, they make you do all sorts of weird stuff. I certainly reckon it's easier than applying for a job at Google.
Oh, yeah.
We won't reveal who, but we actually had someone that has actually been on this podcast, as a member of the Australian wrestling community. They actually applied for season 2023, but unfortunately, as we saw, that didn't end up coming to fruition. But I was just curious, because he didn't really tell me what he did. He was just like, "Oh yeah, I've done this, and now I've just got to wait to see if I hear back of whether it's a yay or a nay." And then obviously the season never happened. But there you go. If they ever comes back, people, all you got to do is just apply for it like you're applying for a job.
Yeah, put yourself out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and again, things have just think about it. I can't believe how much things have actually changed. Like 2020 versus 2025. Like now, people write their job application. And again, I'm not advising that you should do this, but people will write their job applications with AI. And so I just think, now that I just wonder how they're going to be screening the applicants now, because I know probably a good proportion of them will be writing it all with AI, and it's going to sound, spectacular, but also eerily similar to all these other 1,000 applications they're getting.
See, this, so this will come out, I think, roughly 2 weeks by the time we finish recording this, right? So it'll be episode 152 or 153, depending on stuff we're working on, if we end up getting it finished or not. But for episode 147, I actually had to use AI to help me name the episode, and I felt like I was cheating. I was 147 episodes in, and I got nothing. And then AI gave me 100 suggestions, and I didn't end up picking them anyway. I ended up going with the original one that I chose in my head anyway. But I was like, the fact that after 147 episodes, I had to go, all right, AI, this is my episode. What do I name it? Even though I still went with my gut originally, I was like, I feel dirty.
Oh, look, mate, it's good to know that when the robots do take over, you'll be loyal to a Homo sapien species.
But these next few questions, Frank, are going to be asked under the assumption from both myself and Nova that you did re-watch it when it aired. It's going to be pretty awkward if you didn't, because there's a good chunk of questions here about it.
Oh, yeah, I did, absolutely, yeah.
But obviously, we didn't re-watch the whole series. We re-watched 3 episodes, and we actually did them out of order. We went the wrestling episode, then we went back to the episode previous to that where you were eliminated, and then we just went to re-watching the final, which obviously, spoiler alert, it's been 4 or 5 years now, was won by Lockie. But when you watched it back and you saw the wrestling challenge, and it was literally I don't know about the actual time frames in terms of filming and stuff, but the fact that happened straight after you were eliminated, how did that make you feel watching that back when it aired?
Oh, so again, a bit of insider info. Again, I don't think Channel 9 are going to really care about me saying this, but because after I got eliminated, I went home. I was living on the Central Coast at the time, so it wasn't it wasn't a super long trip home, and then a couple of weeks after that, because I roomed with Kyle, who was the medieval fighting guy.
Yes, yep.
He called me to tell me he got eliminated. And then that's when he told me, hey, by the way, we did a wrestling episode. Well before it going to air, I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I want to pull my hair out right now.
I literally was so sad because I was like, no, Frank needed that episode. They've totally, like, because I was seeing how they planned everything out, and I was like, they've got an episode to suit everyone. That was Frank's episode. Like, what are they doing?
Yeah, I just thought, it's one of these cases, where the best laid plans don't always go to fruition, and you just go, well, whatever happens, and I guess that they had to kind of, pull a fastball at the end of the day to go, oh, what are we going to do now? But look, at the end of the day, I still really liked, the wrestling episode. I feel like, needless to say, would have, loved to actually, give it a go myself. But, I think, it was great, giving Australian wrestling more, national TV presence. And in an alternate universe, maybe I would have got to do it.
Well, that actually leads me into my next question, Frank. Now, this, as I said, this podcast is for the marks, by the marks. There's a lot of people in the wrestling community that say that that's a bad word, but if you think being a fan of something's bad, then I don't know what to tell you. So for the sake of, what if and all the multiverses and everything that may or may not be out there, just how do you think you would have fared if yourself and Gabby would have been there to tackle that challenge?
Oh, mate. Going into the show, a small part of me was like, look, if they ever do a wrestling challenge, I sort of had a persona plan. I didn't ever think they were going to do it. I thought the chances of this happening is probably less than 1%. Shows you how much I know about producing a program. But I thought if they were going to do a wrestling challenge, I sort of had a persona, plan. And that was very much, I thought I was going to model myself off, Shawn Michaels. And basically I was going to do, something relatively low-ish risk, that was going to use the super kick as my finisher.
Yes.
And with Gabrielle, we'll get, I guess, we never really talked about this because, we thought, well, it was, past our time, but, she's a great athlete. Like, I'm not sure how much of this got, conveyed, on air, but, she was a high school, multi-sport athlete. She was, track and field, played a few other sports as well. So, like, athletically, like, she's, she's very fit. So I think, I don't think that would have been, physically, I don't think that would have been, any issue. Like, I reckon, we would definitely be able to, think of some moves that she could have pulled off. And then going into what Channel 9 probably originally had planned. I keep saying Channel 9, but it's really not Channel 9. Channel 9 is just overseeing it. It's the producers. They probably more likely than not probably would have had me win the episode, and we probably would have got on our eventual date, which I don't actually know what we would have done, to be honest, because I remember when one of the producers asked me before the show, because I found that question a bit weird before the show, because obviously knowing what I know now, it made sense. So they kept saying, "Oh, can you give me some date ideas? Give me some date ideas." I was just like, "Well, what? Like, why?" Like, I was just like, "What?" Clearly, they were planning a date for me, but seeing how the show ended up, because in the previous seasons, like I tell you that you guys didn't really watch the Channel 7 season, which is were quite different to the Channel 9 season. But like,
I dabbled in those series when they were.
Yeah, me too. I watched them a lot.
Charlie, someone. My name's frying on me. He was on Home and Away, but no, I used to watch those seasons when I was younger with my nana.
Yeah, Hugo. He was Hugo. I can't remember his name, but.
He was Hugo in Home and Away, but his name's Charlie something in real life, I think.
Yeah.
I can't. But the Channel 7 seasons, like, they weren't a big deal, so I was just like, oh, what are you asking me about this for? But anyway, in response, I just said, let's go play cricket. That was actually my answer. I don't know if they would have pulled that off, but, anyway, it would have been nice to see what Channel and I, had planned.
Just take you to a live wrestling date or something, and just go watch some wrestling, get her introduced to it.
Oh yeah, that would have been great. Yeah,
you're so cool.
I still remember the first time I showed you actually PWA Nova, because you were a big WWE fan.
Yeah,
and then I showed you PWA.
I didn't even know
and now
existed.
Jessica Troy is one of your favourite wrestlers ever, and she was on this episode here with Beauty the Geek Australia.
Wow,
I said this to Nova in hindsight, Frank, while we were rewatching the episodes. Like, obviously, in the superhero challenge, you know, Gabrielle said she struggled a lot with the public speaking and stuff. I honestly 100% feel like that if it had been in the wrestling situation to where she was able to kind of craft the character and be something different, I think that would have been the perfect moment. And I feel like in that atmosphere, and this is just coming from me personally, like I've always been a wrestling fan, but I've been a bit of a quiet person. But if you were to see me perform, you'd think I genuinely have an ego, because there's just something about it that pulls it out of me. And I really wish we could have seen that kind of pulled out of Gabby, because I think she would have absolutely smashed that, especially now that you say that she did have the athletic background. But have you ever considered, Frank, yourself getting into the wrestling business? There is a lot of reputable schools, world-class schools around the entire country, and even with the doctorate stuff now, you could even go on that route.
Yeah, like a part of me thought about, you know, back in there, but like not realistically. It's didn't really think I athletically probably had the physical abilities, but a part of me kind of says, you know what, it would be cool to get in the ring one day just to see what it's like, but also realistically, I don't think I quite have the physical capabilities, and that's just, you know, knowing your own body. You know, as a kid, I played a bit of rugby, I played cricket. I was never very good, but you know, I gave it a shot, and I guess in the same way, if I given the opportunity, I'd have a go. But I don't think I'd be very good.
I will just say though, before Nova asks her question, being a part of the business, I've seen a lot of people come in that have, you know, I knew a fella up in Queensland who was nearing on 40, but he still regularly played, you know, casual rugby and stuff like that. And he said if he got to got to wrestle a match, that'd be great. But he literally was just training just for the sake of training, just because he wanted to, you know, at least say that he could take a bump and stuff like that, just to be around the business. So I wouldn't say that's completely out of the possibility. I'm sure if you hit up, you know, Jack J. Bonzer and he said, "Hey, I want to take a bump," he'd more than willing, more than be willing to let you take a bump. You know what? We're just short on one person tonight. How about you do this for us?
Rumble spots even, you know.
Hey, we have had a few TikTok stars and stuff be in the PWA Rumble over the last couple of years, so
even Slam with some battle royals and stuff. Hey, we've got some celebrities too, you know, from Canberra.
Frank's a big rugby league fan. We just had Terry Cambese on the show, name drop, but he just wrestled for Slam in Canberra, and we were there, and it was freaking awesome.
Well, there you go. I mean, who would have thought?
You just never know. So looking back, being the first team eliminated from Beauty and the Geek, is there anything else that you would have done differently? And is there any, like, specifically think, like, on the show besides the wrestling stuff that you wish you could have taken part in?
Yeah, what have I done differently? Blow the freaking balls differently. That's what I would have done. I kept saying, like, what I saw the challenge, like, yeah, I think we've got this. Like, I just thought, you know what, it's about just, you know, getting a few balls into holes. Like, how hard could that be? But yeah, you know, little did you know, physics has some weird laws that when it's not your day, they just don't work in your favour. But yeah, again, it's, you know, it's a bunch of what ifs. But had my time again, I probably would have approached that elimination very differently. Yeah, I was, again, they cut a lot of this out on TV, but that took about probably 15, 20 minutes for that challenge. And I was always just be like, you know, you just go quick, you know, have as many goes as you can, but then you realise actually if you're going quick and, you know, 9 times out of 10 the ball's falling off after 2 seconds, you're probably going about it the wrong way.
So now, the winner of the 2021 season, of course, was Lockie. But when you were first eliminated, Lockie himself was visually upset, and you guys said you'd go to Bathurst together when it was over. Did you guys ever end up getting to do that?
Oh yeah, it's a small world. It really is a small world. But Lockie and I, we realised that on day one of filming, I had a bit of downtime, which people were just talking, getting to know each other. I kind of realised we were in like the same room together like 2 years before at the Bathurst 1000. So I myself, like I got into motorsports fairly late. It was more sort of in my sort of mid-20s. I started doing some medical work with one of the motorsports companies, and then as part of that, I was quite fortunate to be able to do that for the Bathurst 1000 in 2019. That was my first year. Obviously, Lockie and I hadn't met, but it turned out that his ex-roommate in uni was the guy doing the radios for us, and that year, obviously, Lockie and him had a catch up, and it happened to take place at the same place that we were staying. So without knowing, we realised we probably came across each other without actually realising who we were. And then, so therefore, to sort of, provide a bit of context in that thing, and that's why, Lockie and I had a very strong, like, personal connection. And this is stuff that you just can't fake. It's like, he clearly didn't want me to go, and I didn't want to, say goodbye to him either. And then to, fast forward a little bit later down the track, again, being a COVID-affected year, everything got pushed back a bit. That come December, when the Bathurst was on, and we saw each other once again at Mount Panorama, but this time around, we definitely know who the other person was.
See, I'm a little disappointed though that they didn't put that on the show, because I know the whole thing is it's meant to be strangers and stuff coming together, but that's such a I'm not going to sit here and tell people what to believe in or not, but like whether it's destiny or fate or whatever, just to touch on the fact that hey, we've met, but like don't really remember it, but we were like in the same room. Like that's a little thing that they could have expanded on. I feel
for me.
Oh yeah, again, whether you call it fate or whatever it was, it's just like, the world is bigger, but it's also small.
See, I'm kind of a bit of a nerd science-wise, and I'm just like string theory. It's string theory all the way. It's just like he's all like kind of connected and meant to meet somewhere along the line, like properly again, and like, yeah.
Well, yeah, like, I can see, while we might physically, in these 4 dimensions that we can perceive, like in these 4 dimensions, we were in almost in the same place at the same time, but, it's all about string theory. The other 7 dimensions, which we cannot perceive, we could have been in completely different universes.
Yeah, and that's what I mean, like, and obviously, like, every decision you guys have made have led you back to, like, meeting each other again. And it's kind of weird, because that's kind of how me and John met. He was across the road staying in his mate's house, he was one of his wrestling mates. And then later on, John went back to Canberra. I didn't even know he was there. Didn't even exist in my realm. But then he met me through Tinder, and he was living in Canberra at the time. So it's kind of like, oh.
And 6 years later,
so
I live
weird.
across the road from one of my best friends.
We just go, hey, did you live on that street? Was that was that your van I saw doing burnouts the other night?
Well, it's just so weird, because like now 6 years later, I live across the road from one of my best friends, and she used to always tell me about this cute boy with curly hairs, and I'm like, then you realise years later that that's literally my mate's son who I helped feed and stuff when he was a baby.
You can't fake that. Like, how did we randomly meet on Tinder, like, a little bit later? But yeah, that's what I mean. Like, this is why I'm so into, like, string theory stuff. It's just so cool. It's cool.
We've kind of gone on a rant here, but that's what we do here on CRC Pod. Like, that's such a cool little thing, and I feel like... See, I get really, like, and again, it comes back to wrestling, right? If I'm watching a show, whether scripted or non-scripted, I'm like, it's the heels and the faces, right? Like, they want us to get invested in these characters. I feel like that would have been such a good little character point of, hey, these guys kind of know each other, but they don't. Like, you can't write that stuff. Like, that's awesome.
You can't make it up. And the other, part about it, I suppose, I don't think any of the producers ever got word of that. That was just something that Lockie and I knew. We thought, okay, that was pretty cool. But yeah, now that you mention it, it's like, what if we pitched that to one of the producers? And they'd be like, hey, we could really spin something up. Who knows? who knew? But we were very much just in the world of, okay, let's just figure out, where we are and, what we're going to do next. Because really, with most reality TV shows, you have no idea what you're about to do. You get told 2 minutes before, hey, by the way, this is happening.
Fair enough.
It makes sense, because in that way you get like the realist reaction kind of thing. You don't really get time to prepare for anything, and it's like it feels a lot more real. So that makes sense.
See, that's almost wrestling.
It's like it's a lot of it just waiting around. And I think I know I'm going on a bit of a tangent myself here. It's because the year after, in 2022, I was sort of fortunate enough to work on the production of Ninja Warrior. As their doc,
nice.
And then,
cool.
And then, knowing what I know, and I think, and that's where it was done through a recruitment agent. And when I told him I was on reality TV, he's just like, okay, cool, I'm putting you forward. You're our guy. So again, knowing what I know, like watching it now, from the backstage, I was like, gee, I could totally see how all these guys that were about to run this course actually have no idea what's going to do. And I think I might have actually, spoiled it for one of the competitors by, revealing to them, what order they're going. Because I just assumed they knew. And then they're like, oh, I'm not going this time. I'm like, you not know? Like, okay.
maybe not. Shit.
Frank's just like, oops. My bad. He had an R-Truth moment. My bad, Joe.
And I was like,
that's on me.
Oh, yeah, wait. Couldn't have told you that, but anyway.
So my next question for you, Frank, is if you could have the opportunity to be on any other TV show, what would it be?
Oh, I think that's a good question. I kind of like, going back to the application for Beauty and the Geek, I always say, like this was the one show I wanted to do. Like it's like, I'm doing this once and once only. Again, it's not the kind of show where you can go back and do it a second time. It doesn't really fit in with the brief. And I said, and this is the a lot of that application was just me, like, pouring out, my internal thoughts and, basically really showing the producers, like, I want this and I want it so badly. But thinking about what other show I want to do, like, probably Survivor.
Ooh,
I know that I would probably struggle after 2 hours on that island. I'd be like, yeah, where's the air conditioning? But yeah, like at least in theory, it's one of these things I think I, would want to have a go at. So that probably would be, if there was a second show that I would have a go at, it probably would be Survivor.
See, I would say, right, like you're a very humble person, I can tell from talking to you, but I would say that in that same vein, being on Beauty and the Geek Australia, that would qualify you to be on the Celebrity Get Me Out of Here, which is a very similar kind of vibe. But I was talking about this with Nova actually before we started recording a day or so ago, and I was saying, man, we saw something on social media about The Amazing Race. It was the American one, but I was like, man, imagine if we had like Frank and Gabby or Frank and Lockie or something like that, like on The Amazing Race. Like I personally, I'd be all for that, but. Switching gears yet again, before we move back into the wrestling stuff, Frank, just a kind of a little bonus question here almost. You mentioned it before how your side hustle, so to speak, is being a doctor for Cronulla Sharks, and you've got that like in your bio and stuff on Instagram, but you well documented, huge Cronulla Sharks fan. How did actually working for the Cronulla Sharks come to fruition?
Oh, yeah. So, the short answer is, and again, kind of a, motto, I think it's a good motto to live life by. Just like, chase after your dreams and keep asking questions because you never know. Having grown up in China, obviously, rugby wasn't a native thing to me. It was something that I, learned after immigrating to Australia. And one afternoon, flicking on the TV as you do on free to air. I saw the Sharks playing. They were playing Penrith, but I just said, you know what, Sharks are going to be my team. And the thing was, I was living on the North Shore of Sydney at the time, so like 35 kilometres away, from Cronulla. But I'm like, you know what, they're going to be my team. And then it stuck. So during uni, well, I sort of found out that actually, sports medicine is a specialty of its own. That you can, train just to do, sports medicine, and most of those involves taking care of athletes. So what I literally did was, 3 years into uni, I just quite literally Googled, who is the head doctor at the Cronulla Sharks. It happened to be a bloke who's in the Shire, Dr. George Fitzers, and I just emailed him to say, "Hey, look, I'm a Shark supporter. That's why I want to come and learn from you, and also I'm interested in sports medicine. So can I, come sit in with you in your clinic?" And George was a very nice bloke. He said, "Absolutely, come around," and then. Man, basically, it just grew from there. On my days off, I sometimes, come in just sort of, learn, just to see what, how, this all works. And obviously, knowledge-wise, being, someone who's, quite fresh, to build up that knowledge side of things as well. And sort of fast forward a couple of years after that, George then calls me one day, says, "Look, mate, I'm, looking for someone to do the reserve grade side with Sharks. Would you be interested?" And I'm like, "Yeah, bloody stoked." So, and that unfortunately happened to be a COVID affected year.
Oof.
So the season only lasted a few weeks, but it pretty much just grew from there. Getting more, and with most things, the more you put your hand up, the more you're going to have things. Opportunities come your way.
See, for me, working in the wrestling business, my one-track mind is just like, absolutely. Like, how many people have we seen get opportunities now just from showing up to just set up the ring or sweep the floors or something small?
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, we need a person for insert thing here. And then they're rocking and rolling short after that.
Yeah.
Like, it's like that
Exactly.
everywhere in life. But that's awesome, man. Like, the fact that you just go on, hey, can I learn? And this guy could have basically told you to bugger off if you wanted to. Luckily, he didn't. But I just love that you've just gone, I wonder who this fella is. And you've just Googled him and gone, yep, cool. And you've just gone from there. That's really cool, man. And that shows you the wonder of technology. Could you imagine doing that in, like, the early 2000s of...
look up the phone book.
Yes.
That's really cool. But we're going to move back to the wrestling stuff now, Frank. And this is the part where we kind of have a bit of fun, mark out a little bit before we wind down here, because we want to be as respectful of your time as we can. But this kind of stems off the wrestling challenge, and it's a two-parter, but it's basically the same question, just asked in different ways. But going back to the kind of, throwing off that wrestling challenge, if yourself and Gabby were to have a mixed tag team match with any professional wrestling tag team, who would it be? And alternatively, if you could team with anyone, whether another geek or an actual wrestler, who would it be?
Okay, so if we were tagged, so Gabby and I were to tag against a mixed tag team, do they have to be a real team in wrestling, or could I just pull anyone from any time?
You can put two random wrestlers together if you want. This is it's the CIC pod.
And like in a dead or alive?
Absolutely, go for it.
Yeah, well, gee, didn't think this far, but yeah, I have to think about this. I mean, yeah, who would we wrestle against if we could pick any team to put them together? Oh, you know what? I'm gonna go Adam Copeland and Beth Phoenix.
Hell yes.
Yes.
Very popular
nice.
one here at CIC Pod. I think that was one you actually said Nova before you became an official co-host. You were like, let's do it. And I was like, let's not. Yes. You would eat me alive.
Yeah. And again, one of these things that, look, you just rewind the clock 10 years ago, you just go, you never think those two would, actually, tag in a real match, as a couple. We thought, they were both done, they were both retired. But it's amazing what a bit of, technology and a bit of, accelerated rehab can do for you.
And what about the other part of the question, Frank? If Triple H called you tomorrow and said you got a shot against the tag team champions, who are you recruiting? Is it another geek? Is it a particular wrestler? Who are you going with?
Okay, so if I could tag with anybody, I'm assuming keeping it realistic, which I can't pick anyone who's dead. If we're going tomorrow, we're going to, in a main event, Royal Rumble. Well, it's not main event. They just say we're on the card. I got to pick a partner. See, I'm thinking out loud here. I think being a tag match, I'd pick someone who was skilled in tag team wrestling. So I'd stay away from the singles dominant people. I just have a soft spot for Kofi. I have to go Kofi Kingston.
Nice.
Maybe with this recent heel run, maybe Dr. Frank is what Kofi needs to.
Yeah, maybe
Frank.
Maybe we can, bring him. Bring the New Day out of there. Whatever slump they're going through.
It's brilliant stuff, by the way, that the New Day are doing. Like the segment on Raw, just
my god,
ridiculously good.
10 years. Like, how has it been 10 years since the New Day? I was just like, wow.
Yeah, right. But the segment a few weeks ago with Kofi's mum being disappointed, and then yesterday, as we recall, Miss Woods' family busted out the New Day. They're going to make so much money, unironically, off those New Day Sucks T-shirts, which is the mark of a great heel. Because heels in the olden days didn't sell much, but to say it's the same as the We Hate Cena shirts. We had the Let's Go Cena, Let's Cena Suck shirts, and he's making money off of both of them.
He's like, love me or hate me, I get paid.
But going back to that question, who would your unrealistic choice be? So if someone was passed on that you'd want to team with, who would it be?
So someone from the past. Again, going a bit old school. I kind of always just thought, again, obviously, we were too young to watch some of these legends wrestle from the past, but knowing from the history books and from what we see, it's hard to go past Bruno Sammartino.
Oh, dude,
yes, good choice.
Now that is a real old school shout. Yeah. Hell yeah,
it is. I mean, and the thing is, because unfortunately, I guess everyone has to have their day, but he I remember watching him going to the Hall of Fame. He was a good-looking, dude in his late 70s. I was like, he was looking fit. I'm like, this guy still got it. Years and years after he's retired from professional wrestling.
Absolutely. He's what is he, a big Italian dude or something like that? And he was just, as Frank's, he's bulging. You watch that Hall of Fame, he's bulging out of the suit that he's wearing. He's huge.
I was like, he's I guess especially, doing what I do, working mainly with old people, you see, there's some good 80, 90-year-olds, and then there's some really old, crumbly ones.
Absolutely.
For sure. Alrighty. Oh, yeah, so the next question was as well, if you could choose anyone that you could face, who would you face?
So in a singles match, no stipulations. Or do we put a stipulation in there as well?
Well, usually the question is for wrestlers is, who's your ultimate dream opponent and what's the dream stipulation? So if you want to throw a stipulation on it, Dr. Frank, you are more than welcome to throw a stipulation in there.
Yeah, throw a stipulation. Again, given the fact that, again, I don't think I physically do all that well, so I think we need every stipulation we can get. So I think, the stipulation would definitely be no disqualification, because I think we... or even make it an Extreme Rules match. Something that allows you to use your imagination to bring in, whatever it is that you could to make the match, more exciting. So definitely be sort of Extreme Rules match, or no holds barred, that sort of match. And who would I face? Again, it's hard to go past Cena. It's just being someone from the 90s, watching Cena as a kid, it's hard to go past John Cena.
I'm just imagining it's December 27th. It's the last Saturday of the year. For some reason, WWE comes to Australia. Dr. Frank retires John Cena on the retirement tour.
Could you imagine?
Oh, well, what a send off, hey!
We'd like to ask you next question, Nova.
So my next one for you is, what is your favourite match of all time, both that you've seen on TV and that you've seen live?
Okay, so greatest match you'll see, So, I mean, John alluded to this earlier, but that a TNA match. Joe versus Styles versus Daniels was amazing. But I mean, thinking about it again, I guess thinking more recently, I'm just going, are there matches that top that? And there's probably a good chance that there are. Again, thinking out loud here. Greatest match of all time that I've seen on TV. You know what? I'm still going to go with that Joe versus Styles versus Daniels match. I'm just thinking in recent memory. Again, there's been some really good ones, but I just feel, again, just going back to TNA days, just from a technical standpoint, I think, I still can't think of a more modern match that, top that, in terms of just a technical performance from all three guys that, playing to their strengths, and they all did their job amazingly well.
I remember showing over that match. Sorry to cut you off, Frank. I think it was 2022 or 2023. It was recent-ish anyway. And I showed her both that 05 match and then the 2009 rematch that they had back to back. And so both those matches now have since been matches of the week here on the podcast. But that may be the greatest match in TNA history, to be honest. Like, there's a lot of good ones. I'd agree with you. Like, it's ridiculously good.
Yeah, I think the storytelling and also the physical, performance by all three guys. I think so. Yeah, on TV that, and then I guess in real life, again, it's going to be limited to WWE matches. But I have to say, 2018 when I went to Philly for the Rumble weekend.
Oh, nice.
On the Saturday, NXT Takeover, like Johnny Gargano versus Andrade. Like,
okay.
That match. I mean, I know we wanted Johnny to win so bad, but we all kind of knew he just wasn't going to win. But like, just the story that those two guys told in that, absolute monster of a match. And I have to say, and then of course it was rated 5 stars by Meltzer. And,
I was about to say, not to go on a tangent, because it's a running joke on this podcast, because every time it comes up, the fact that Kurt Angle doesn't have a 5-star match is bullshit. However, that was the first, even though it was NXT, that was the first 5-star match that WWE had since 2011 with John Cena and CM Punk.
Yeah, it was like, because I just, and just watching it live, because obviously, as you go in person, every match looks, better than what it actually is. Like, again, at the time, I kind of didn't go, it was a really, really good match, but then it took a while for it to actually sink in how good that match was. It's these two guys just told an amazing story, and just, two very technically super talented dudes just going at it and throwing everything out there. I mean, the only thing I could have made it better is if Johnny Gargano won, but we kind of knew it wasn't quite his time yet. But hey, you know what? It didn't stop him.
Yeah, I think that was actually the match where Gargano actually injured his shoulder actually on that DDT off the top rope, I'm pretty sure as well, which was very unfortunate. But in the grand scheme of things, it actually kind of made his comeback like even better when he finally won the title.
Oh, yeah. What a moment. How good was NXT back then?
Maybe even found a match of the week for this episode when it comes out.
Because I don't think we've done that one yet.
Nova, if you'd like to ask your last official question before we wrap this up.
So the next question is a non-wrestling related question. So we always kind of ask it as a bit of a fun fact before we jump into plugs. This one's a bit of a two-parter. In terms of the NRL, who is your all-time favourite Sharks player? And who is your all-time favourite non-Sharks player?
Oh, well, the first one's easy. I mean, Paul Gallen, again, being, watching rugby during, the sort of mid to late 2000s. Gal was the man. He was almost single-handedly just, carrying the Sharks week in, week out. And now Gal, he coaches one of their junior sides. And, still run into him from time to time. And he's a very down-to-earth bloke, and that's the thing. It's there's no facade. There's no big celebrity tag. It's just very down-to-earth bloke, and just amazing human being. Favorite Sharks player definitely Paul Gallen. Definitely he's a future Hall of Famer for sure. Non-Shark, I'd probably have to go Jonathan Thurston.
Yes.
A bloke, a bloke who was never meant to make it in the NRL. Again, it just well documented how he had to go through multiple clubs before he was even offered a shot to train. So I think again shows if you have a passion for something, don't give up on it, because you never know. You'll be a Hall of Famer in no time.
Absolutely.
Solid choices for sure.
I'm an Eels supporter. I'm sorry.
I'm Broncos.
Never going to see a premiership in my entire life. I love the banter constantly between JT and Hindy of,
yes.
How many shots did Hindy have at the grand final? It only took Thurston one.
It's one of the. I guess sports in general, isn't it? But it's a cruel game. How does someone like Nathan Hine must not have a premiership? It's just, it's not fair, isn't it?
But just kind of a little bonus question, just real quick before we wrap it up, Frank. Obviously, this is not going to come out for another 2 weeks, but as we're recording this, it's the Royal Rumble this weekend. So just, who's your pick for the 2025 men's and women's Royal Rumble matches?
I'm going to go with some bold choices. I'm going to say Cena's going to win the men's match.
Okay.
And he'll probably lose at Mania, but I just think, starting off the year strong, he's only got less than 12 months left. I think he'll win the men's match one more time. And then, I reckon they've got the whole year planned out already. But I think he'll win the Rumble, lose at Mania against whoever he faces, and then that'll lead into SummerSlam for his next big thing. But anyway, so I think, Cena will win the men's match. And see, the women's match is a bit more, it's a bit more out there. I know there's some rumors that Charlotte Flair is coming back and she might win, and I wouldn't be surprised, one little bit if she does win. But I think for now, I guess without any sort of, solid hits, I guess I'll probably, stay away from Charlotte. But a part of me kind of says, I really want Bianca Belair to win. I don't think she will, but I kind of just think that, she will be someone that will do really well in a Rumble match.
I can't have another question. Just one more question.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
So, another one I just thought of. Is there any surprises that you think are going to be in the Rumble, both male and female? Can you think of any that you're kind of thinking might come out? Or
I think surprise. It's something that WWE have fallen away from. I know, every year there used to be in 2000s and 2010s, it was like you're watching it for the surprise entrances. There'd be someone that's coming out of retirement, and that was the attraction. And the other part was the Kofi Kingston special, how he saved himself every year. But some of WWE has sort of fallen away from that a bit in terms of the surprise entrances. But look, who do I think? Again, I think one reason they've gone away from that is I don't think they really need a surprise entrant anymore. It's there's enough talent on the roster to put together a good 30-person Rumble for both the men and the women. But let's just say if there was to be a surprise entrant, I'm not going to count The Rock as a surprise entrance because he's kind of been around a bit, but, there's a good chance he might be there. But, someone that's really been, away from the scene, for ages, and this, might get, a big pop here and there, I reckon Goldberg.
See, I had that thought because it is in Atlanta, right? And he hasn't had that proper official retirement match per se, so... And he's
not even retired. People now wrestle till, they're in a nursing home just about. So, but, I reckon, we haven't heard anything from him for ages. He's just been quiet. And it's normally at this time of the year, you see the promos about who he's going to face. But it's what? Maybe they're keeping it quiet for that.
Hell yeah. I still say the only thing I care about happening is the John Cena-Joe Hendry face-off. If I don't get Joe Hendry in the Rumble, I'm going to mark it down as the worst Rumble of all time. But no, in terms of surprises, that's all I want. Just give me Joe Hendry. That's all I need. Give him the Cena face-off. That's all I need.
We shall see that on Sunday.
I hope so. As we wrap up here, Frank, where can we find you on social media and stuff like that? I know you've got a cameo and stuff like that, but yeah, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, sure. So, look, social media was actually one thing that prior to going on Beauty the Geek, I almost did not use social media. It was I was very much like, even after the show, like I kind of used it just because everyone else, was using it. So working fine. So yeah, I have an Instagram account at Frank Liu-Fu _MD. And I do have a Cameo account and a Swish account where I do give out a shout out if anyone would like to give your mate or your family a shout out or a birthday wish or just some banter. You can find me there. The links are there on my Instagram page, and yes, also more going a bit on a tangent. Where else you can find me? All health workers in Australia. You can look up the details publicly on the Australian Health Practitioner Regulatory Agency website. You can find me there too.
I might even try and, if I remember, to link that below as well. Does Dr. Frank have any merch or anything like that he needs to plug, or upcoming events? Or?
I'm not really. I don't have any merch other than that. Just like I said, I try to keep the world going, and if I can, help somebody at a time of need, I think then I've done my job.
Hell yeah. I thank you so much for your time this evening, Frank, and getting back to me. And before we end this, I just want to say I hope you're staying safe, because I've noticed that you've got a few storms coming your way, and we've had some here the last couple of weeks, and we've had power outages and all the fun stuff. So yeah, just hope you're staying safe and you're staying well.
Oh, thanks, mate. Yeah, thanks for having me, John. Thanks. Good to talk to you in person. Good to talk to you too, Nova. And let's see what happens with the storms. We had one. Had a bad storm yesterday, so we'll see what the rest of the week brings, and hope you guys stay well too. Actually, if I can go back a little bit, it's more of a flashback to the show. Like I remember, and it didn't air this, and I didn't expect them to. I remember, as one of my exit interview questions, the producer did ask me, is there any final messages you want to do? And I kind of said it almost as a joke at the time, again, being COVID being COVID, and more with going along with the cricket theme. And I guess I'm just going to give this one more plug for what it's worth, because since COVID, because in cricket it was common practice. You're use your saliva to shine the ball, but because of COVID, you're not allowed to do that anymore. So, as a bit of a joke, I made a reference to the 2018 Sandpaper incident, and I said, look, kids, in the name of infection control, don't spit on the ball, use sandpaper instead. And I can see why there's anyone of that making it to air.
You know what? I think that's going to be the episode title.
Yes.
Don't spit on the ball.
Use sandpaper instead.
Well, I'm just saying, you know what? Don't give Warner and Cam Bancroft these two so much slack. They were just seeing what the future was going to be when let's spit on the ball anymore.
Love it. Love it so much.
Thank you very much, Frank,
for
coming on here with us tonight. And
absolutely.
Best of luck
for
for 2025. And just thank you very much,
too.
mate.
No, thanks, John, and thanks, Nova.
Thank you very much, mate. See ya.
Thank you, bye.
Take care.
All right, Nova Lee, that was the one and only Frank Liu-Fu, a.k.a. Dr. Frank. I can't believe that this conversation... This is like a Crazy Steve situation all over again, to where I just dropped my phone on the table. I basically just messaged him, shot my shot, and within a couple of about a day, it was all scheduled and we had it up and running. And since then, obviously, we recorded this pre-Royal Rumble. Post-Royal Rumble, Frank and I have just been having random conversations about the results of the Rumble and where we think it was going to go with John Cena on the pre-show, possibly teasing a corporate Cena, like everyone wanted Hollywood Cena. It looks like you might get a corporate Cena. Could you imagine that? Like we finally get that John Cena heel turn in the final year. Like he basically just, he lost the Rumble and then went on the pre-show and said, best for business this, best for business that. After 23 years of good service to this company, I'm just going to enter myself in the Elimination Chamber. Like, fuck, all right. Like, you can't disagree with it. And honestly, that's the mark of a good heel, is someone that tells the truth.
Yes.
That's why Chris Jericho in 08 was on another level and he was calling everyone hypocrites and parasites and everything because he was saying all these things that were getting ire and anger, but he wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
He was talking about Shawn Michaels faking injuries and still getting booed and Shawn Michaels pulling strings back in the 90s, which is all legitimate history. And the fans were like, how dare you say that about our HBK?
Our Lord and Savior, HBK.
And it's funny that I bring that up because obviously we've just done the 95 watch-along, which will be the previous episode to the podcast by the time this all goes out. That wasn't even an intended cheap plug, but as I brought it up, it was there. But, I wonder... who won the Rumble the year Dr. Frank was born? We'd have to do a deep dive on that. But no, very fun conversation with Dr. Frank. We went a lot deeper than I thought we were going to, which was awesome. Shared some very fun stories, and I know we say this every time with 99.99% of our guests, Nova, but I would have Dr. Frank back on in a heartbeat. And
Definitely.
Pick a topic and mark out and just fanboy, fangirl.
Even we did, like I always say this, even if we did like a Markapalooza of some sort with him.
Imagine like Dr. Frank, like, hey, let's put together a wrestling card using the Beauty and the Geek Australia roster. It doesn't have to be the same one he can be on. It can be from any season. Obviously, we'd have to do a deep dive and refresh. And something I forgot to mention in the intro, actually, I was meant to make a note. I forgot. When Bernard Curry, that's his name, the guy that played Hugo, came up, I so confidently shouted, Charlie! His name is Charlie! The reason this was happening was Esther Anderson's character in Home and Away, Charlie dated Hugo.
Yes, that's right.
And for some reason, in my brain, while we were talking about Hugo, I was like, his name is Charlie! No. His name's not Charlie. His character dated Charlie in the show and made myself look like a dumbass. I was going to bring it up in the intro and say, hey, when this comes up, so if you don't listen all the way to the outro, I'm just going to look like a dumb prick, but that's okay. That's okay. Frank and I were discussing this like a little bit after the conversation where, he was just like, I was saying thank you to him for coming on and he was saying thanks for having me and da-da-da-da. And then he was like, oh my God, that was his name. And then he was like, once he said Bernard Curry, I was like, why did I think it was Charlie?
He does look like a Charlie.
Why did I think it was
Charlie?
Charlie?
He doesn't look like a Bernard.
And then like in full capital letters, like we were having a conversation face to face, was just so aggressive about, Hugo dated Charlie. And Frank was like, oh, actually.
So good.
But yes.
So good.
That was like peak me watching Home and Away with my mum / nan around that same time period. But Bernard Curry, if you ever listen to this episode, I am sorry. Good sir.
Oh my gosh.
But could you imagine if we got Bernard Curry?
That'd be so good.
My mum.
Yes.
My mum, Mama Crossfire, I'm going to put her on the spot right now. She has a massive crush on Bernard Curry. So that'd probably pop her quite a lot. If that was happening. But Frank kept saying in this episode, Nova, sorry to the Channel 9 producers if you do listen to this. But hey, Channel 9 producers, if you do listen to this, if you could hook us up with like Sophie Monk or someone.
That would be sick.
Anyway. I honestly wasn't sure what to expect because, like, although Frank is very humble and he just likes to live his day-to-day job as Dr. Frank and stuff like that, and we touch on it in this conversation, I just thought, by Australian standards, he could be considered a celebrity being on reality TV, a very big reality TV show on Channel 9. For all intents and purposes, this bloke could have told me to piss off. He literally could have looked at the message going, you're a tosser, bugger off. But not only did he reply to the message, he went out of his way to work around my schedule, our schedule, and I'm just like, dude, you're a doctor. We should be working on your schedule.
Such a legend.
Thank you so much, Frank, for coming on.
Mate.
I honestly, and I'm not even just trying to like fantasy book or book guests here, but I wouldn't mind possibly getting Lockie on to talk about some.
Yeah,
because
sure.
I
cool.
It's kind of like childhood trauma. I haven't watched the V8 Supercars in quite a long time, and kind of blocked it out a little bit because I used to watch it with my dad. But man, sitting here and being able to just reminisce about some of his favourite races and
it'd be so cool.
tracks and like go to talk about the days of Mark Scaife and Peter Brock and Craig Lowndes and
yes.
Oh man, like I would love that so much, and I know that Lockie has his own podcast / radio show and stuff as well. So being able to give that a plug and stuff like that, maybe I'll reach out to him one day. Who knows? But But who knows? Maybe he'll listen to this because Frank's on it when Frank shares it. But no, I just hit Frank up because we remembered him Nova from like that was literally like we watched. He
was the reason we kind of watched that season because we're like, holy shit, there's a wrestling geek on here.
Like we touched on
holy
it. We watched
shit.
the Bernard Curry ones back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day when we were younger.
But it was kind of just like it was what it was. But then when it was like it's returning, and I'm like it's on Channel 9 now. Channel 9 has a lot of stuff. Well, it's like even Channel 7 has Australian Idol, which used to be Channel 10, which doesn't exist anymore. But when it was coming back, we're like, oh yeah, like that's cool, I guess. And then like they were introducing us to the, I almost said characters, but like the participants, and they were like, oh, this dude's obsessed with wrestling, and he's a doctor. I was like, oh my god, living proof.
This is awesome.
Living proof that not all wrestling fans are complete dumbasses. I unfortunately am on the opposite side of that spectrum.
There's another doctor in wrestling, the Doctor of Thugonomics. Thank you.
Yeah, Frank's boy, John Cena. I mean, Xavier Woods has a PhD. Britt Baker's a legitimate dentist.
Hey.
But no, man. My ankle just cracked, and I think the microphone just picked that up. Holy crap. But, no, just thank you to Frank for coming on. Me and Nova and I cannot be more grateful.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I said to Frank,
Good
I was
chat.
just like, hey, man, can we just tee this up and da-da-da-da, and I'll just drop it on my wife. And I did that, and she was like, what?
I was like, who?
I was like,
What?
Frank. I was like, you know Frank.
You're like, Frank. I'm like, Frank the Clown?
And then
Frank who?
I'm like, Dr. Frank.
Who?
You're like,
I was like, Dr. Frank?
she's like, my doctor's name isn't Frank. But then I just sent her a gif of like Beauty the Geek Australia, and she was like, what?
Yeah, well, he even did it in a roundabout way where usually we book through our Caught in Conversation Instagram or via like Caught in the Bookings Gmail.
Yeah, hit us up.
Hit us up. But anyway, I was like, usually I can see those. And I was like, I haven't seen anything from any Frank. Who is this Frank person? And
So-
then you were just like, Dr. Frank.
Like literally, he posted like a flashback memory, right, from around that time period, and he was wearing that purple John Cena shirt, and I was just like, man, like that's my old that's. I know Cena's had fucking hundreds of shirt designs, if not thousands if you count the bootlegs, but that's my all-time favorite John Cena shirt is that purple Never Give Up C Nation t-shirt, which I actually did a custom championship as part of my graphic work a few days ago. So go check out the Crossfire graphics, and we'll do all the plugs for that. But no, I replied to that and was just like, man, like da-da-da-da, I really loved you on the show. That's my favorite Cena shirt. And then I was just kind of like, while I had his attention, I was just like, hey man, would you at all be interested?
Yeah.
And it was a trickle effect, and we're ranting, which we always do. But Nova, have you got your notes ready to repeat the song and match of the week? And we'll get into these plugs, and we'll get out of here because we don't want to rant for too long and take away for this. I just dropped my water bottle. I'm on fire tonight. This is the third episode we've worked on in one day.
I'll start calling you Mr. Dropsy.
I think that caffeine has kicked in too much, Nova. I've got the shaking over here.
You got the shakes.
Take it away, please, my love.
So your song of the week for episode 153 again was "The Time Is Now" by John Cena featuring the
trademark. The trademark.
The
with a C.
trademark.
John Cena's cousin.
John Cena's cousin, to be clear.
Features very heavily on John Cena's You Can't See Me album, which still slaps.
Slaps.
Jack Vaughan over here with the thigh slap.
Alrighty, and your match for episode 153 again was Johnny Gargano versus Andrade at NXT TakeOver Philadelphia 2018.
So Royal Rumble weekend 2018. There's also a banger Extreme Rules match on that NXT card between Aleister Black and Adam Cole, which will probably be a match of the week at some point now that it's fresh in my mind again because, dude, that slapped so hard. And, of course, Adam Cole actually entered the Rumble that year completely banged up and destroyed from that match the night previous. And kind of cool because at some point John Cena and Adam Cole are actually in the ring at the same time and they don't really interact with each other very much, but the fact that John Cena and Adam Cole were in the ring at the same time is pretty freaking cool.
It is pretty freaking cool.
But no, with that being said, for the 1,000,000th time, and we'll continue saying this off air even when we shoot around and everything when it is ready to come out, but thank you, Frank, for coming on. But for the actual plugs, as always, myself and Nova, Recording Conversation, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Patreon. It's all there in both of our link trees. And then, of course, our personal link trees contain our Instagrams and the TikToks and the GoFundMe and the Amazon wishlist and the Patreon. Get early access, Nova, for as low as
$5 reduce.
And for Tier 2 subscribers and up, $10 Australian, $6 US. Automatic access to my digital book, the first of my 3-book miniseries, my children's book, Alphabet Smackdown, Call of the Wild, written, illustrated, everything by me, a legally blind man, so I'm pretty damn impressed with myself. It is the pinned post on my Patreon page, so if you subscribe $10 and up, it's right there. We really need to get around, well, I need to get around to doing the audio version. Maybe I can try and get Nova Lee in on that. We'll try and work something out, see how we go. But yeah, it's all there. $15, you of course get the video access to our watch-alongs, and you even get the power to pick an episode topic, preferably wrestling themed. But we will, we'll settle for some sort of Marvel, DC, nerdy kind of stuff, right? And that could be a watch-along, it could be a Markapalooza, it could be a specific themed Q&A or whatever else, anything in between, within reason. Again, there might be some wrestlers that may be controversial, problematic, that we don't want to touch on the show within reason. But
yeah.
But for all intents and purposes, is there. And then of course the $20 tier, the top tier, Nova,
is the Supernova tier.
Supernova, baby. I still think Forever, aka Samuel, former guest on this show, by the way, should put that song up on Spotify at some point. You'll go head to head with Joe Hendry in the charts on that one. Or at least I should say Samuel will, because he put it together. But yeah, if you have the $20 tier, but yeah, if you do the $20 tier in the intro and outro, where we're doing all this ranting, your name will be thrown out in all of that ranting. And I am trying to do right now, we're trying to get the Facebook page to 500 likes / followers. There's like 100 and something more followers than likes. I don't know why they're separate on Facebook. They should just be the same thing. I remember when they used to be the same thing. But if we get to 500 followers, we'll say, that's okay. 500 followers, I'm doing a giveaway. I have a signed plaque from WWE Hall of Famer Edge, now simply known as Cope in AEW, and a piece of the SmackDown ring skirt from 2003 to 2008. It has like all the certificates and stuff because it came with WWE 2K20. Although that game was a train wreck, the memorabilia is pretty freaking cool. So yeah, if we get to 500 followers on the Facebook page, I will be doing a giveaway for that. But we want to do, once we have enough followers, if we can get enough $20 subscribers, we want to do Patreon specific giveaways to the $20 subscribers. Because if we got something that's worth anywhere between $100 to $200, we go 5 to 10 Patreon subscribers. They pay $20 each. Cool, that's that. I'll take the hit for the postage costs. It's all there. It's done and dusted. It all sounds great in theory. But for the final time for this episode, at least, thank you, Dr. Frank, for coming on. I am the essential John L. Crossfire.
And I am Nova Lee.
I've been talking way more than usual in this episode, at least this intro and outro. I apologise, Nova. Just caffeine is...
That's all right. I'm starting to wear it down after...
It's been a long day as we record this intro and outro.
So I'm starting to wind
but
down.
Look, even though I'm a Rams fan, I will say go Birds, but just...
Go Birds. Go Birds.
Just real quickly, we'll say, I just realised I didn't do the actual event plugs, Nova. I went from plugging the Patreon to... But WrestleFest in Victoria, MXW, February 28th, March 1st. Extreme Capital Wrestling, Hard Day's Fight, Queen Bee and New South Wales, March 1st. ICW Australia, Insane Asylum 24, March 8th. ICW Central West, November 1st, all the way at the end of the year. The third Emma Butler Memorial Show. We've raised $4,000 plus with the 2 shows that we've had so far. Let's raise some more money. More tickets actually just went on sale. All the links to all 4 of those shows, or I guess 5 because it's a double header for MXW, will be below. MXW are also having a raffle for Brian Kendrick, who will be an appearance. Custom WWE Tag Team Championship signed by Brian Kendrick himself. Everything is there. It's all there. I almost felt flubbed at Nova. Anyway, I am the Essential Dreadnought Crossfire.
And I am Nova Lee.
Again, you guys were just caught
In conversation, shakalaka laka.
titty sprinkles.